Well, congratulations. That's it's a hell of a ride, that film, and it's very emotional. I'm who isn't a lover of St. Stephen's, and I feel really scandalised as well. So I must collect my thoughts. Surely this is, the first of many powerful kicks in the belly of SeaWorld, which is going to stop this happening. This is going to light a flame which will spread around the world, surely. Is that how you all feel from having watched what we've just seen? And is there a campaigning element to it which is important to you?
There is. We've, it was important for me when I was making the film to not have a campaign in mind.
Yeah.
Only because kind of the tough backstory of this whole thing is that I'm a mother who took her kids to SeaWorld. So I kind of embarked on this project not with an agenda. I actually thought, I've had more trouble seeing primates in zoos, I think, than I ever had at SeaWorld. I thought SeaWorld was actually doing it the right way, and it was just clean and happy and great family fun, and the whales were just being treated so well. So for me to kind of, embark on this project was also me discovering everything that you just discovered. And I thought my process was powerful enough to make me do a 180, obviously in the process of making this film, and I was hoping that it would do the same to someone like me, who came in really not knowing very much about this. So I thought for the integrity of the film, I thought it would be important to sort of not engage anybody, really to just allow the story to sort of tell itself and the facts to just drive the story and the narrative. Now we've come to a point where I just feel like I have this, we have this harnessed energy, and we always knew we wanted to do something, we just weren't sure what. So at this point we have Voice of the Orcas, which is VOTO, V-O-T-O, and that is these former trainers have kind of come together and made a website that has kind of a campaign element to it. And we have the idea of, doing sort of a 3-step process, and that is encouraging people to just, vote with your dollar and not go to that place, and not really support animals for entertainment. And secondly, to stop the breeding program. That's incredibly important to us because there is enough, essentially, sperm on ice to keep whales in captivity in any marine park in the world for at least easily another 80 years. So they have to actually stop this sort of artificial insemination and this inbreeding. And then it's to put pressure on other governments to not do marine parks, because if SeaWorld takes a hit here, something that they could do is just go overseas, and kind of invest in parks all over the world who have even less, stringent animal rights than we do. So yes, there's a campaign. It's kind of, bear with us a little bit. We're sort of putting everything together right now. This website will also be a landing pad for a ton of information. So there'll be other campaigns available to folks who see the film on the VOTO website. So
really good. But you won't be driving that yourself. You're a busy filmmaker.
I hope to have a hand in it.
Created this for them, and they can use it as a starting place for conversation.
I do. I do hope to play a role in it. I'm still finding my new role in all of this, and I've just been the storyteller for so long that I'm kind of excited to see what kind of my next chapter on this whole thing is, in terms of what kind of role and what would I be needed for. I do have, amassed this sort of information over the period of 2 years, so I can do a decent job of being a spokesperson for the cause, but there are people who've been doing this for 40 years. Yeah. So kind of gotta give hats off.
Any signs or rumblings of SeaWorld trying to shut you down? Any cease and desist letters? Any for clearance from lawyers or anything like this? I stood on this stage last year with the Swedish filmmaker Fredrik Gertten, who made Big Boys Gone Bananas, and he lost 2 years of his life by making an anti-big company film, much more of a campaigning film than him. And it's a $1 billion plus surely industry. Yeah. I would have thought that. $2 billion actually. Yeah, right. $2 billion a year.
Every year.
They won't want us to tell our friends about seeing this movie and for it to be all across PBS, will they?
It's a great question. They have issued a couple statements in the press back during kind of February, I think January, February, that they think that this film is not doing anything new and is just regurgitating the same old, anti-SeaWorld facts that have always been around, and that we neglect to talk about how much they love their whales and how much they care about their trainers. So those are kind of the blanket statements that have come out. But the film has not been released yet, so I think a lot of it's yet to be determined.
Okay. Now, it's an unbelievable archive. Amazing archive.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service. After the beep, please record a message.
Ready?
Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
1, 2, 3. Hey! So I am absolutely not able to explain what just happened. I know for sure it's neither of our fault. But can we anyone in the room?
You're watching us.
There's a live Skype link up after the next film's Q&A. Yeah, got a test. I was looking at some of the archive that you edited into your film like that, you know.
Yeah.
And there must be stuff that you saw that you couldn't, but where's most of it from? Is it, holiday maker, footage, and how did you find them? Did you have
Anything you can think of, that's where I got it. Yeah, anything you can think of. So private archives, people who filmed at parks, just people in this industry, like whale activists and folks like that who know of certain events or incidents, and you're saying, okay, we'll ask this guy, then you ask that guy, and you ask that guy, So it's from just a massing of every source that you could possibly think of.
No, an extraordinary job. Like, I've got lots more I can ask you, but let's give the audience an opportunity to ask some questions. We're making a wee film, which means that if you do put your hand up and I see you, then we're going to ask you to wait till the microphone. I'm basically just rabbiting on now until one of you puts your hands up. Would one of you like to ask a question? There's one just there. Who's got the roving mic? Great, thanks very much.
Hiya. I really enjoyed it, and I've sort of had an interest in this sort of horrible thing over the last few years, and this has brought it even more to light than me, and I'm a local lad, so I don't really get much access to killer whales. One question was, how surprised were you? I mean, obviously I saw it, and I wasn't surprised that people are dying over these years, but what information did you get whilst making this film that surprised you? I mean, what surprised me the most was the part when they take the calves away from the mother.
Yeah.
And that's what hit me the most, but when it came to someone dying, I wasn't that surprised because it's a predator. But what surprised you the most when finding this on this journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think so many things shocked me and surprised me. So the calf separations, I would say that hit me. That gave me, I think, one of the biggest blows of all, and just to know how often they're impregnated. I mean, to the point where they're uncomfortable, and then to only have that calf taken away, and then the next calf taken away. I mean, we don't even have the proper time to go into how really devastating that is. So that was very emotional for me. I think, shock. Wow. It's interesting because I know that they're predators, and yet it was very shocking for me to see how many incidents of aggression there are, because I think as Americans, we actually really buy the Shamu line, hook, line, and sinker, the cuddly teddy bear thing. We really are raised on that. I mean, in fact, as kids, we call them Shamus. Oh, look at the Shamu. We don't even call them killer whales or orca. I mean, so the idea that there's so many incidents blew me away. And then actually, to be honest, the brain.
Yeah.
The brain size and the fact that they have everything that we have, but then they have something that we don't have and that we can't even identify, and that it's kind of maybe connected to the sort of emotional life, and it's just mind-boggling to me, like how that animal with that potential, is being put in this little enclosure. It seems sort of galling, and I guess also it talks about the self-restraint that they have on a daily basis to not attack us, and to not bite the hand that feeds it, so that shocked me. That was huge.
Yeah, it's a bit of a comment really early on in the film when we were looking at the clip from the horror movie in the 70s. Was that right up until that point, all we had about those creatures was mythology.
Right.
And so that lack of understanding, and then fear of the thing that can eat you, which goes back to the Old Testament and beyond,
Right.
is why that business works so well.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
you're safe and you're safe with your kids, but at the same time, it's dangerous, but nothing happens bad. So it's exactly that atavistic response to that creature, I think, which drives
That's
the
interesting.
desire to beat them, in a way. To
I
be
think
better
that's
than
true.
them.
I think that's exactly it. I think that when you are there, you know, when I first went to the parks with my kids, I would sort of feel instinctively that something was wrong and off. And I'd look around and be like, oh, no, this is happy. Oh, that's right. Okay, I just got to get with the program and not be such a downer. And yet, now when I see it, the shows just speak of mastery. That because we can do this, we will.
Yeah.
And just like the fact that we're standing on them and their noses and there's like no dignity and and the yeses, you know, the nose, and it's just circus goofy stuff. Like I just see it now, I think, for what it is, with just all the media sort of stripped bare.
Yeah. It's making elephants kneel, it's bullfighting, it's...
Right.
Yeah.
But it did take me making this film. I mean, it did take me 2
Sorry, I
years of
got into a
unpacking.
private chat tonight.
Yeah.
In
Go
the
ahead.
third row, please.
Great film. I really liked it. Made me feel really angry and sad at the same time. What I was wondering was, when did all the trainers decide to band together and walk out? It wasn't clear. I mean, did they have a real fallout and getting together? And the other thing is that getting involved with this, the campaigning thing, aren't you worried about that SeaWorld will then be able to say that, she's just a campaigning person and therefore, you know, you should disregard the film, it's not objective. So there's a sort of jeopardy if you do that, isn't there?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. I mean, in terms of the first one, the trainers left SeaWorld. Each story is completely different. Some were there for 10 years, some were there for not that many years. One was fired because he was too much of an upstart. And eventually he was an amazing trainer, but he was just challenging authority too much. One left out of disgust during the artificial insemination when he was sort of asked to do that to Tillicum. Not because he was grossed out by it, but because he thought that it was just so undignified and kind of horrific to do to this poor animal. Then one left because of the calf separation. I mean, they all took, and then one, Samantha, she left on great terms, thinking she was gonna go get maybe a further degree and come back and kind of enhance their captivity environments. So she always considered maybe going back to SeaWorld. And so it's just all different folks, but after Dawn was killed, and they heard how SeaWorld handled it, they all banded together at that point, because it was just so clear to them that what SeaWorld was doing was wrong. Yeah, so it was after 2010 that they all kind of came together and refound each other.
Great. Well, then there was a second part to that question, which was
Yeah,
a concern the
campaigning.
gentleman has about it becoming just a campaigning tool rather than a...
I think
Oh,
that's
it is
true.
the
I mean,
same.
and I think that was why it was important for me for the film to have to sort of be its own 80-minute document that's airtight and it's fact-driven. And there's nothing in there. I mean, at least, in my opinion, it can't necessarily smell of an agenda because I didn't have one. I mean, it's just fact-driven. And yet, I mean, you never know. I mean, I'm sure SeaWorld will do anything they can to disregard the film if it comes to that. Or they'll completely ignore it. I mean, I have no idea.
It'll be really interesting to see. Just there, please.
Hi there.
And just, sorry, before you, whoever's going to tell me to wrap up, I can't see you. So you'll need to come right down here to tell me to
Go ahead.
wrap up when you need to.
Just a quick question. Was all the footage archived, or did you get into the site to film your own footage? And how was it with SeaWorld and potential animosity between, what your cause was at the time?
Yeah, no, I did. We shot ourselves at the park in San Diego and Orlando. And, I think there are so many people with cameras at those parks that either we're going to get footage from somebody who shot it or we can shoot it ourselves. So we shot a bunch at both parks. And so they didn't know what we were doing, Yeah, very forced.
Yep, we can see you, and here comes the microphone.
There has been over the years an awareness, I suppose a campaign against SeaWorld going back a number of years. And SeaWorld has defended itself rigorously and with recourse to the law frequently. They're a very litigious company. I'm unclear if they've seen the film.
They have.
And so what's their response?
There's been no response. They have seen it. They saw it at Sundance, from what we understand. I didn't see them there, but apparently they were there. And we don't know. We'd have to get inside the park and really talk to people inside the park right now. And they're very good at keeping people quiet who work for them. So we don't really know. They are very aware we exist. And either they're bracing for impact or we're bracing for impact. I have no idea.
Thank you.
Really good. Well, not good. Potentially awful, actually. But really fascinating. I mean, it's great. One last, anyone? Well, see if we've got time for two, we'll do two. And I saw you first and then I saw you second. So keep your hand up so that they can put the microphone in it. Keep your hand up and someone who's holding a microphone, that's the way. Pass it along there. And then it's very well done, everyone.
I was just wondering, when you approach people to be interviewed, there's some people that are talking about some quite grisly things that they've been partaking in. Is it easy for you to approach them? Are they willing to talk on film about their past, or do you ever struggle with that at all?
So in terms of maybe John Crow in the beginning, who talks about the capture,
Yeah.
about capturing, put it
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was, for me, it was so important to get exactly those people. I mean, in fact, to just have those people almost drive the film. So for me, it was, they're all the apostles. I keep saying this, I keep referring to everybody like the former trainers as being the apostles because they're delivering a message from the other side. They're the only ones who can really speak to what it was like to do the wrong thing. And I just think that element of humility, in delivering this message is so important because I don't know how to describe this, but it's so hard to get across to people who may or may not care one way or the other when you're telling them what to feel. And you're telling them, I can't believe you eat meat, I can't believe you do, this is what you need to do with your life. And so in order to get, to be able to convince people who are apathetic, you need to have that element of people saying, I did a bad thing, and here I'm going to give you my confession of this. To me, that was so powerful in the interviews. I knew they would drive my film. So it was actually the opposite. It was actually easy to talk to those folks because they felt bad about what they did.
It's incredibly moving to watch, I have to say. It's really well executed.
Thank you.
And then I think in the same row, a few questions. Persons along, somebody had their hand up. There it is, maybe. Thanks very much.
I just noticed that all of them were former trainers and all of them were against, probably besides the one who was for. Did you approach any trainers who are still working, or are you not allowed to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to get them too, and you just can't. They just never responded. Anybody who was in those walls, they have very vicious non-disclosure agreements. And so when SeaWorld declined to be interviewed, everybody went with them. So yeah, nobody within the park, and I tried very hard.
Thank you very much. Good questions all round. I think that's about all we've got time for.
Yeah.
You told us the same, do it again. You're in cinemas on the 26th
Correct. So
of July in the UK.
UK cinemas July 26th, and then US July 19th is New York and LA. Then the nationwide in US is July 26th. Then in the fall, it goes to broadcast in various different forms and formats, and Arte and CNN Films in the States. So I'm really hoping a lot of eyes can get on it.
Really good. And what are you working on next?
Oh, terrible karma. I have to talk about your terrible documentary.
Is it a bad question?
Yeah, because it's nothing until it's something, right?
Okay, well then.
It's just air right now.
Let's hope the air turns into some sand.
I hope so too. You'll be the first to know.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks very much.